Terraria snowballs are good, but not great. They're okay as a starting weapon, but can you beat the whole game with them? Probably. But what about in Master Mode? The rules for this challenge are that I have to defeat Moonlord while only using snowball projectiles as my main attack in order to win. Traps, NPC damage, summons, other weapons, and self-sufficient armor bonuses and accessories, like things that can deal damage even without a snowball hit, are not allowed. With the rules out of the way, jumping into this world I faced a difficult challenge right away. I had no way of attacking enemies since I didn't spawn in with any snowballs. So I had to try to find the snow biome. But since the jungle was on the left side of the world, the snow biome would be on the right, which unfortunately meant I had to get through the corruption without any weapons in Master Mode. It took many deaths and hours, but I slowly pushed through the corruption, until eventually I reached the snow biome and was able to craft snowballs. But this was merely a false prophet, since I was still easily overpowered. Naturally, my next task was to head into the icy caves and get myself a snowball cannon as fast as possible. Some life crystals, and a few hours later, I got my hands on the snowball cannon, which would be my final weapon upgrade for this run. Anyway, I was now finally able to kick things into second gear by finishing up my simple starter base that I'd been working on in the meantime as I began suiting up for the Eye of Cthulhu. By this point, I had myself a full set of gold armor and very solid accessories, so I knew the eye wouldn't be a problem, and the game knew that too, since it threw it my way before I was even able to finish crafting potions. I quickly scraped together the arena and whatever potions I could find before the fight, which itself was underwhelming. The first boss was really easy, and I made quick work of the eye, eventually getting myself the Shield of Cthulhu, a legendary mobility item that lets me dash quickly to the left or to the right. With that, I was already ready to fight the Eater of Worlds as well. This time around, I was able to craft Iron Skin, Regeneration, and Swiftness potions, what I call the Big Three, to help me through this fight, which I chose to have above ground for extra space to dodge. Honestly, I play so much modded Terraria that I didn't realize that the Eater of Worlds doesn't really do much, which made this battle more of a test of patience than really anything else. I did make sure to only attack his face or the adjacent piece to prevent him splitting into multiple worms to avoid getting overrun by multiple segments. Eventually, once the day neared an end, the fight did too. After this boss fight, we got ourselves another amazing accessory, the Worm Scarf, which greatly increases our survivability. Taking down this boss also lets me get the Nightmare Pickaxe, allowing me to obtain Hellstone now, which is huge because I'll have access to the best pre-hard mode armor in the game to take into the Skeletron fight. Before that, however, my plans were interrupted by a goblin invasion, which took forever. I got through it without dying once, though, by abusing the fact I could prevent spawns by moving left, far enough away from spawn, letting me whittle away at the horde. Once I took down the few goblins I had on my plate, I moved back to the right again to spawn more foes in, only to repeat the cycle many times over. My next plan was to obtain the Bass Statue, an amazing buff station that increases defense by 5 for nearby players. I basically needed it for this challenge, plus maybe I could find the Tinkerer in my search through the underground desert as well. I set off to make a desert base as such, but that's when I noticed something strange. See that star that just fell? It was floating, not falling like it normally does. I didn't throw that, and no one else was in the world, so there was only one explanation. And yeah, there was indeed a sky island right above me, which was a nice surprise, though it had nothing of use. Coming back to the Bass Statue search, it took a long time. The underground desert is relentless, and with no crowd control, it took many lives before I found the statue, only after exploring this much of the place. But this is definitely a worthwhile upgrade to our arenas. Moving on, I still hadn't found the Tinkerer, that pesky bugger. I headed underground in my elevator to try my luck, and like 5 seconds later he was found. With him, I was able to upgrade my accessories, getting Spectre Boots and a Fart in a Balloon from a whoopee cushion I got earlier. I also reforged my snowball cannon, but a lack of funds only got it to deadly though, rather than unreal. The last thing I wanted to do before Skeletron was to get Frostpark Boots. I had most of its ingredients, but I needed an Anklet of the Wind. So I started work on a jungle base for the pylon, as always, but I was once again interrupted, this time with a blood moon. One of these had happened earlier in the run, but I was so weak I decided to ignore it. Not this time. With all the gear I had, I should have an easy time farming for the shark tooth necklace, an accessory that grants 5 armor penetration. With a low damage weapon, this is imperative for success, which makes it a good thing I got one. I finished up the jungle base right quick, and made my way to find the anklet, something that kept on eluding me as I opened more and more ivy chests. Eventually, I chose to return to the surface before finding it so I could craft the ivy whip, a nice hook upgrade that should help in future boss fights. Returning to the underground jungle quickly yielded a piece of ancient cobalt armor, a nice surprise, being a very rare drop. Whatever, into the trash it goes. What I really wanted was this anklet so that I could make the Frostpark boots. So now finally, it's time to curse this old man. With the defense from the bass statues, the luck from the gnomes, the regeneration from the campfires and heart lanterns, and the movement speed from the sunflowers, I was confident. Confident even as the moon moved across the night sky as Skeletron's HP remained unchanging. But that was only expected. I had to take down its hands first. Only once his hands are taken down does the fight really start. Or I guess it doesn't? I mean, you sort of just have to move in a circle. Did they nerf I don't remember it being this, Well, as empty as the battle was, so were the rewards. Naturally, I next went exploring through the dungeon, obviously to get my hands on a cobalt shield, but only a cobalt shield. I wasn't interested in getting necro armor for the range damage. I prioritized defense coming to the end of hard mode, and my accessories were reforged as such. After grabbing myself an obsidian shield, I made my way to the jungle to make an arena for the queen bee, which I wanted to fight so I could get the honeycomb accessory, something I would need in order to make the stinger necklace, which stacks with the shark tooth necklace for a total of 10 armor penetration. Invaluable in this run. Anyway, as I was working on the arena, these relentless enemies reminded me that I should get a Bezoar, an accessory that would nullify poison damage, which is one of the queen's major attacks during the boss fight. But then that happened, so no Bezoar for me, I guess, which is pretty stupid. Fortunately, I was able to dodge most attacks, and so I didn't need the poison immunity. It also helped that occasionally throughout the fight, some bees just decided to hide in the bottom left corner, which I've never seen before. Mind you, this is vanilla Terraria. Though I am using journey mode to help with farming blocks and potions, I never used it to make boss fights easier, so I don't know what's up with that. Regardless, with her in the ground, this left just one boss in my way before hard mode, the wall. Now this was going to be a challenge. With limited space and time to fight it, I knew I was going to have a hard time. So that's when I pulled out the last weapon I could use in this run, the snowball launcher. A powerful, placeable weapon that shoots very fast but with low accuracy, dropped from snowflinxes. It should work well against the wall and its horde of hungry. After the hour it took to get one, I made a hospitable cave base for the Goblin Tinkerer so I could reforge all my accessories on the cheap. I was at a loss for words on how nice this ended up looking, but I guess I'm just good at everything I do. Returning to my preparations for the Wall of Flesh, I fished around the world to get my hands on the Rage, Wrath, and Endurance potions, respectively boosting my crit rate, damage, and damage reduction by 10%. I also opened up presents for some sugar cookies for the exquisitely stuffed buff, a major all stats up. With the crafting of restoration potions, grabbing the Brain of Confusion, and shimmering a life crystal for the Vital Crystal, which is a consumable that permanently boosts health regeneration, I finally made my way through this world-long underworld arena that I'd be using for the Wall of Flesh. I was about as stacked as one can get in pre-hard mode, so if I can't kill it now, I may never. Guide Voodoo Doll in hand, it was time. If it weren't for the hungry, this boss fight would be really easy since it would just be a wall, but that's not the case and I had to push my snowballs past them in order to hit the wall of flesh behind. This is where the snowball launchers came into play, mainly being used to clear out the hungry to give me a line of fire. I aimed for the eyeballs if I could since those have no defense, although I did have the shark tooth necklace equipped regardless. Eventually, I got into a flow with things until I weakened the wall to the point where its laser became nearly completely solid lines. I could barely dodge it, but to make matters worse, eventually the wall started moving faster than me, so I knew I had to focus so I could take it down faster than it to me. And just like that, we were in hard mode, which frankly is amazing. Hard mode is awful. Literally every enemy became a huge time sink, to the point where fighting them wasn't even worth it. Though I managed to keep things to myself, and I focused on the task that lay before me, getting orichalcum armor. This armor set has a special set bonus that causes petals to strike enemies. By going with this armor set, I was maximizing damage over defense. With armor handled, naturally, in hard mode, getting wings, you just have to, so I did, like the sheep I am, and that allowed me to move on to getting life force potions, one of the best in the game, boosting max health by 20%, which also as a result increases health regeneration. With these major boosts in place, it was time to get some armor. I know that's what I just did, but there's another armor set that would be fundamentally crucial in order for us to have a chance of beating this run, and that is the frost armor. In order to make it, I needed to go into the snow biome during a blizzard and kill 3 ice golems to get 3 frost cores, which would be combined with titanium to make the armor. Easier said than done, because these mini-bosses are incredibly strong and tanky, but are made manageable by the fact that they can't jump high. Taking the first one down, I was blessed with an ice feather, which gave a nice upgrade to wings as I continued my grind. I was just about to finish up this task when deer clops spawned. A hugely unwelcome surprise, and the fight was made harder as I tried to keep the ice golem from despawning, since it just felt like leaving as soon as I stopped giving it attention. Deerclops herself though wasn't much of a threat, and just by keeping my distance, the fight was over soon enough, giving me this little walking piggy bank. How cute. Not just that, I finally had my hands on frost armor too, which is a huge get. After my long onboarding into hard mode, it was about time to face the twins. I initially believed I could damage them down easily enough using the frost armor's frostbite debuff, which takes 25 damage every second to affected enemies. As I ran along the sky bridge though, I quickly realized this would not be enough. That's when I got the cheeky idea of swapping over to orichalcum armor to stack the petal damage on top of the debuff. When the frostbite ran out, I would briefly swap over to the frost armor to reapply it, only to repeat the cycle throughout the 9-minute night. If you do the math, you'll realize this is a huge improvement to DPS, as the frostbite will take off a staggering 13,500 HP off of each of the eyeballs over the course of the night. Not like this could lower my DPS, since with autopause on, there was no hidden downside anyway. That said, even with this strat, I didn't do enough damage in time. Honestly my fault though, I had most of my accessories reforged to warding. A quick swap of 2 of them to lucky gave me the firepower I needed to win, though it was still close. Moving on, I felt ready to take on the destroyer. This boss is rather simple, and while he does have a lot of HP in master mode, orichalcum armor really comes in handy, along with all damage reforges on my accessories. This only left the problem of surviving, which, yeah, was a problem, but that's okay. I had some things I skipped over in my rush to this fight, primarily life fruits, which would be able to take me up to 600 max HP. You can also shimmer one to get the Aegis fruit, boosting defense by 4 permanently. Before the rematch, I also got a putrid scent, as the damage boost it provides is very significant. With that, it was time for the rematch, finally able to fight the destroyer again. This time dealing enough damage and dodging enough attacks to make it a worthy fight. Making sure to cull the probes using some placed snowball launchers, there wasn't too much to dodge during the fight. That left me to use this armor set optimally, which is done by targeting horizontal sections of the destroyer, as the petals tend to strike horizontally. These facts in play, this fight too ended in victory. Despite these successes, I was fairly certain I had no chance against Skeletron Prime. He's not a hard boss, but he's just so pesky to hit. Not only is he elusive though, he has a singular hitbox with high defense, shedding the weaknesses of the 2 previous bosses we just fought. This all combined to make a formidable boss, that by the end of the night still had about 1/5 of his health remaining. This boss felt like an immovable object with how much damage I lacked. But I couldn't give up this far into the run. I began to plot for my revenge, mainly by hiking into the jungle temple to steal a solar tablet, which I used to force an eclipse, letting me farm for the moonstone, an accessory that bumps up my damage, crit rate, regeneration, and defense by considerable levels, but only during the night, though that caveat isn't a problem for now. This event also gave me a wings upgrade thanks to a dropped broken batwing. After making an arena that I'm calling Skeletron Prime's Coffin in the Sky, this rematch was going to be a piece of... This third attempt was going to be a piece of cake. For my arena, I made an asphalt sky bridge with tons of snowball launchers lining them, angled in the same direction, which would let me run across the sky bridge and let me shoot 2 weapons at once. Left click for the cannon and right click for the launcher. I had pressure plates hooked up at the ends of the platform to flip the launchers around when I reached the world borders, allowing me to continuously use the strategy throughout the night. Only when I saw the moon above the center of the screen, as Skeletron Prime's health was at half as well, were my hopes fulfilled. Victory was in sight, and pushing past the fog of a close encounter with Skeletron Prime, it was over and I was the one left standing. There isn't much to do with the challenge rules after defeating the mech bosses. I could craft glorified armor, which I did, but the set bonus broke the rules of this challenge, so I got rid of it, leaving me with really nothing new for Plantera. Just a huge arena was all I had prepared, and just like that, it was time to take this overgrown weed down. Frankly, Plantera is a very easy boss in its first phase, granted you have a big enough arena. I recommend leaving a lot of room at the bottom of the arena for when she shoots those bouncy balls around. Those can be annoying, so keeping them enclosed away from the player is very handy. The second phase was a bit rough because Plantera becomes real handsy here, not hesitating to get up close and personal, but she is just a plant and this wonderfully large arena helped in this phase, until with little damage taken, it was finally over. With Plantera down, I was finally able to get Shroomite armor, the final armor upgrade for this run. This new set provided a huge boost to damage but also defense, which is the bigger concern coming to the end of Master Mode. Not just an armor upgrade though, I also found many accessory upgrades waiting at my fingertips, and all I needed was to grind mobs in the post-Plantera dungeon. Yeah, that wasn't happening. No, I just made a mob farm using cursed dungeon brick walls that would allow me to farm the enemies I needed in a controlled environment. From this, I grabbed myself a shield of the paladin variety, a black belt, and a tabi. With these, I made a hero shield for incredible survivability, replacing my obsidian shield as both serve the job of providing knockback immunity, and a master ninja gear to replace the shield of Cthulhu, giving us a more potent dash ability. Anyway, I went to take down Golem, when I ran into a problem. I didn't realize vanilla Terraria blocked actuation of lizard bricks before Golem was defeated. Not only did this mean I had to explore the temple to get to the room with the altar, I also had to fight the boss in this tiny space. Sure, Golem's a simple boss, but considering this challenge, I didn't think I could last in a room with him for as long as I expected the fight to last. Nonetheless, I made do with the space I had to the best of my ability, which wasn't much, just a small platform with some buff stations and honey bubbles scattered along the edges. Prepped and ready to go, Golem slammed down, marking the beginning of this fight. I knew I wouldn't have a problem in the first phase due to the boss's limited attack arsenal, so I spent my time in this phase focusing on its hands, so I wouldn't have to deal with them in the second phase later on. This ended up being a very smart move once its head started floating, since I was starting to get overwhelmed by him. This is where the challenge begins, as it's much harder to dodge its lasers and flaming bouncy balls with its head so close to me, until I tried something, which worked. I didn't realize it was this easy, but you can disarm his bouncy ball attack by kiting his head into getting stuck in the ceiling. Once he's up there, he can't spawn those balls of flame that bounce around, and this left only his lasers to dodge, which was made easy by repeatedly dashing left and right. This made the fight a breeze, and Golem was shortly thereafter defeated. With Golem down, there were only 2 things in my path to victory, alongside 5 accessory upgrades. The first accessories I grinded for were Celestial Stone and Shell, both S tier items that provide incredible stat boosts to the player. I followed these up by crafting a Destroyer emblem and a Recon scope using the newly unlocked Eye of the Golem accessory. These upgrades were concluded by buying myself Steampunk wings from, you wouldn't believe it, the Steampunker. I satisfyingly reforged these new puppies to damage reforges, this time switching gears and focusing on menacing rather than lucky because of an already high crit rate before making my way to the dungeon. The cultist awaited me, and for it, I was ready. This fight is mad boring, honestly. I tend to see it as a chore before the real fun begins, and the same holds true here. Before I could get in a rhythm though, I started making my way over to a bigger arena for this boss, where I would continue the fight. A fight which took an incredible amount of time because of how tiny this little twerp is, though I was thankful for its fixed attack pattern. A neat thing I discovered during this fight is that if you can get the cultist to pick up some coins, its real body will shimmer a bit while its decoys don't, which can help with spotting the real cultist a bit easier. I don't recommend this since autopause is still better for this attack, but it's now on the wiki nonetheless. To make matters worse for this pathetic excuse of a boss this lunatic probably thinks of himself as, I in fact found the second phase easier, mainly because it used its decoy attack less often in this phase, which let me damage it down quicker. After an hour or so of fighting, this boss was down too, calling in the lunar invasion, marking the beginning of the end. I handled the first 3 pillars about the same as I did any other event, where I would spawn in a few enemies to deal with, scuttle away to lure them to safety, and fight them on my own terms without getting overwhelmed. Slowly but surely, the pillars started falling one after another. With just 1 pillar remaining, the obvious next step was to fight Duke Fishron. Yeah, I know I could have done this fight earlier, and I totally should have, but I waited until now so I could use the anti-gravity hook for his 3rd phase. A useful hook that allows the player to swing in a circle. It's obtained as a rare drop in the Martian Madness event, and is good against the Duke's 3rd phase, which is something I always struggle with. It usually always comes down to the wire for me, so I wanted and needed something more sustainable than just trying to dodge. That said, I actually forgot to grab his hook before the fight, so I just had to learn how to take him raw. This is where I realized I messed up by not getting the anti-gravity hook, and so I panicked a bit. I quickly looked up his attack pattern on the wiki for the 3rd phase, and returned to the fight. An important note about this phase is that he has no defense, which allowed me to swap out my armor penetrating necklaces to some flat damage boosts instead, increasing my DPS for this last phase substantially, until it was over pretty quickly. Getting the fish on wings was a nice surprise, but what I really wanted out of this tangent was the Shrimpy Truffle mount, one of the best in the game, allowing for infinite flight and, when wet, great mobility and a 15% damage boost as the cherry on top. This little dude is the star of the strategy I have planned for Moonlord, so this is huge. Taking out the final pillar, it was time for the finale. By the way, I was not excited for this fight. In the worst case scenario, I expected this battle to take like 6-7 hours because of how little damage I did, but there's no stopping now. So let's go over the plan I had to take down this behemoth, which can be boiled down to avoiding its tongue. Moonlord's tongue is the bane of low damage challenges, because of what it does. Every so often, Moonlord will shoot his tongue towards the player. If it reaches the player, he'll begin stealing their life in the form of weird white entities. These usually aren't a problem in most runs, as they can be killed pretty easily, but in this run, they're unstoppable. This meant that if he put his tongue on me, I'd have no way of stopping him from healing. As such, my entire strategy was designed around this. I moved my loadout to that of a defensive build, which let me tank most of his attacks, and paired with a Rod of Discord to dodge his head's laser, I was quite safe throughout this fight. The arena was also pivotal in this battle, which was composed of long bubble columns of honey spaced 200 blocks apart that would re-wet my mount throughout the battle, letting me constantly move at top speed. I also set up a teleportation system which, on the right end of the world, would hoik me down into a teleporter to teleport me to the left end of the world so that I could continuously move to the right. This was significantly safer than turning around mid-flight when I would be vulnerable to his tongue. After about an hour, his 1st phase came to an end, and Moonlord's core became my new target. This phase tends to be difficult, normally, but when you end up fighting Moonlord for a long time, and when you get teleporters involved, his true Eyes of Cthulhu just end up disappearing, which made this fight incredibly easy. With basically nothing left to attack me, I was able to chip away at his heart until I neared the 2-hour mark. So yeah, you can actually beat Master Mode using only snowballs. If you enjoyed this video, consider smiling.